After my aunt died, I got her $50 million fortune. My family surrounded me at the reading and demanded I split it or they'd disown me forever. Quick reminder, don't just watch, be part of the family. Subscribe and say hello from wherever you're watching, right here in the comments. I was elbow deep in dishwater at Rosie's Diner when my phone buzzed. The screen showed a number I didn't recognize. Chicago area code. I almost ignored it. Creditors had been hounding me for months. But something made me answer. Miss Lisa Morrison? This is Gerald Whitmore from Whitmore & Associates. I'm calling regarding your Aunt Claudette Morrison. My heart dropped. Aunt Claudette. The woman who raised me when Mama couldn't get herself together. The only person who ever believed I'd amount to something more than a statistics on the South Side. Is she? I couldn't finish. I'm very sorry for your loss. She passed peacefully 3 days ago. We've been trying to reach you for the funeral arrangements, but 3 days. She'd been gone 3 days and nobody told me. My hands trembled as I gripped the phone. Why didn't my family call me? There was a pause. I'm not at liberty to discuss family dynamics, Miss Morrison. However, Mrs. Morrison left very specific instructions. There's a will reading scheduled for Friday at 2 p.m. Your presence is required. Required. That word stuck with me. Aunt Claudette always had a flair for the dramatic, even in death. I'll be there, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. When I hung up, my manager Tyrell was staring at me. You good, Lisa? I wasn't good. I wouldn't be good for a very long time. But I nodded anyway, untied my apron and walked out into the Chicago cold, wondering why the only person who ever loved me unconditionally had to leave without saying goodbye. The bus ride to my studio apartment gave me time to remember. Aunt Claudette wasn't like the rest of the Morrison family. While they scrambled for status and worried about appearances, she built something real. Started with nothing but a food cart selling jerk chicken. Turned it into 3 restaurants across the city. Baby girl, she'd tell me every Sunday at her place in Hyde Park, money doesn't make you better than anybody. But it does make you responsible. I was 7 when Mama dropped me at Claudette's door. Strung out again, couldn't take care of me anymore. I remembered Claudette's face. No judgment, just love. She took me in without hesitation while my own mother disappeared for 3 years into her addiction. Claudette paid for my college when everyone else said I should just get a job. Showed up to my graduation when Mama couldn't be bothered. Hugged me tight when I dropped out of grad school because I couldn't afford it anymore and told me, "This isn't failure, Lisa. This is life teaching you something." But 6 months ago something changed. She stopped returning my calls. When I showed up at her house, the housekeeper said she wasn't taking visitors. I left messages, sent letters. Nothing. My cousin Tasha told me Claudette was sick. Cancer, she'd said casually, like discussing the weather. She doesn't want people seeing her like that. I should have pushed harder. Should have forced my way in. Now she was gone and I'd never get the chance to say goodbye. The guilt ate at me as I unlocked my apartment door, facing another night alone with my regrets. Friday came too fast. I stood outside Whitmore & Associates, a glass tower in the loop that screamed old money. My reflection in the window showed exactly what I was. A 28-year-old woman in a thrift store dress, trying to look respectable for a funeral I wasn't invited to. Inside, the receptionist directed me to the 14th floor. The elevator doors opened to reveal my family already gathered. Mama was there, looking healthier than I'd seen her in years. Uncle Jerome and his wife Patricia, dripping in designer labels. My cousins Tasha, Boyd, and Deshawn, all dressed like they were attending a board meeting instead of mourning their aunt. Well, Uncle Jerome said, his voice dripping with condescension. Look who finally decided to show up. I got here as soon as I was told, I said, keeping my voice steady. Convenient, Patricia muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Only shows her face when there's something in it for her. Before I could respond, Tasha stepped forward. We used to be close, shared secrets and dreams. Now her eyes were cold. Aunt Claudette was asking for all of us these last few months. Where were you, Lisa? The accusation hit like a physical blow. She stopped taking my calls. I tried. Sure you did, Boyd cut in. He'd always been the mean one, quick with a cutting remark. Probably too busy with your little waitress job to care about family. Mama just stood there saying nothing. Not defending me. Not even looking at me. The silence hurt worse than their words. A door opened and Gerald Whitmore appeared. 70, distinguished, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. The Morrison family? Please come in. The conference room was all mahogany and leather. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Chicago River. We arranged ourselves around the massive table like strangers at a business meeting, not family mourning a loss. Mr. Whitmore settled into his chair, adjusting a thick folder. First, let me express my deepest condolences. Claudette Morrison was an extraordinary woman and a valued client for over 20 years. Uncle Jerome leaned forward. Let's get to it, shall we? We all know why we're here. Jerome, Mama said softly. It was the first word she'd spoken to anyone. Mr. Whitmore cleared his throat. Mrs. Morrison's estate is substantial. The restaurants, properties, investments, together valued at approximately $50 million. The room went silent. I'd known Aunt Claudette was successful, but $50 million? My hands went numb. Patricia recovered first. And it's being split 6 ways, correct? Between the siblings and their children. Not exactly, Mr. Whitmore said carefully. Mrs. Morrison had very specific wishes. He pulled out a document and I caught sight of Aunt Claudette's signature at the bottom. Elegant, confident, just like her. I'll read the relevant portion. I leave the entirety of my estate, all properties, businesses, accounts, and assets, to my niece, Lisa Renee Morrison, with the exception of $10,000 each to my brother Jerome and my sister Denise. The world tilted sideways. I heard the words, but they didn't make sense. $50 million. To me. Only me. The room erupted. Uncle Jerome shot to his feet, his chair crashing backward. That's impossible. That little, she manipulated Claudette. Poisoned her mind against her own family. I didn't even see her. I shouted back, finding my voice. She wouldn't take my calls. Exactly. Tasha's voice was shrill. You pretended to be shut out, made her feel guilty, played the victim card until she... That's enough. Mr. Whitmore's tone was sharp. Mrs. Morrison was of completely sound mind when she drafted this will. I have medical documentation to prove it. She knew exactly what she was doing. Patricia turned to me, her face twisted with rage. You don't deserve this. You dropped out of school, you work in a diner, you've done nothing with your life. Claudette built that empire for the family. For the family? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Where was the family when she was dying? Who visited her? She didn't want visitors, Deshawn said, but his voice lacked conviction. I tried. I called, I wrote letters, I showed up at her house. Tears were streaming down my face now and I didn't care. You all act like I abandoned her, but she shut me out and none of you bothered to tell me why. Mama finally spoke. Lisa, baby, you have to understand. This money, it should be shared. Family shares. Family. The word tasted bitter. When have any of you treated me like family? When you called me that charity case? When you laughed at my community college acceptance? When you... Enough of this circus. Uncle Jerome cut me off. His voice dropped to something dangerous. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to split that inheritance evenly. 6 ways. That's 8 million each, more than fair. I'm not doing that, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Then you'll give it all back to the estate and we'll contest this ridiculous will, Patricia said. Claudette was obviously not in her right mind. Mr. Whitmore interjected. I strongly advise against that. Mrs. Morrison anticipated challenges. She included a provision. Any family member who contests the will automatically forfeits their $10,000 inheritance and will receive nothing. Uncle Jerome's jaw clenched. You manipulative little. I have another document, Mr. Whitmore continued, pulling out a sealed envelope. Mrs. Morrison asked that this be given to Miss Lisa privately, but given the circumstances. He looked at me questioningly. Read it, I said. I needed to hear her voice one more time, even through written words. He opened it carefully. To my family, he began, and I heard Claudette in every word. If you're hearing this, Lisa has inherited everything and you're probably angry. Good. You should be. Not at her, at yourselves. The room went deadly quiet. For years I watched how you treated that girl. Like she was less than. Like she didn't belong. Jerome, you called her a burden to my face. Denise, you stood by while your family mocked your own daughter. To my nieces and nephews, you bullied her, excluded her, made her feel unwanted. Mama's face had gone ashen. Mr. Whitmore continued, his voice gentle but unwavering. Lisa was the only one who loved me for who I was, not what I could give her. When I got sick, she was the only one who tried to visit. The only one who called just to check on me, not to ask for money or favors. That's not true. Tasha burst out. I visited every week. Tasha came twice, both times to ask for rent money. Boyd needed bail money. Deshaun wanted me to invest in his third failed business. Jerome wanted a loan he had no intention of repaying. Patricia wanted me to fire my estate manager and hire her nephew. Each accusation landed like a physical blow. I watched their faces, shame, anger, denial cycling through. Only Lisa came empty-handed. Only Lisa asked how I felt, what I needed, if I was scared. She was 21 years old when I beat breast cancer the first time, and she sat with me through every chemo session. Where were the rest of you? I remembered those days. Taking the bus to Northwestern Memorial, holding her hand while poison dripped into her veins, pretending I wasn't terrified of losing the only mother I'd ever really known. When it came back, I made a choice. I didn't tell any of you because I knew what would happen. You'd swarm like vultures, suddenly concerned, suddenly family. I pushed Lisa away because I wanted to give her this gift without strings, without guilt. I wanted her to know she earned this through love, not obligation. The letter continued. Lisa, my darling girl, you were never a burden. You were my greatest joy. Take this money and build the life I always knew you were capable of. Don't let them make you feel guilty for my choice. This is manipulation, Uncle Jerome said, but his voice had lost its edge. She's trying to turn us against each other. No, I said quietly. She's telling the truth and you know it. Mama reached for my hand. I pulled away. Lisa, please. I'm your mother. I know I made mistakes, but... You don't get to do that, I interrupted, years of pain flooding out. You don't get to abandon me for 3 years, leave me with Aunt Claudette because you chose drugs over your daughter, show up occasionally when you needed money, and then claim motherhood now that there's something in it for you. Her face crumpled. I was sick. I had a disease. And Aunt Claudette never once held it against you. She gave you money for rehab. Twice. She paid your rent for years. She supported you getting clean. Did you even go to her funeral? The silence was my answer. I was scared, Mama whispered. Seeing her like that. So you made it about you. Like always. The words hurt to say, but they needed to be said. You want to know why she left me everything? Because I showed up. That's it. That's the big secret. I loved her when it wasn't convenient. Patricia stood. This is ridiculous. Lisa, be reasonable. You can't possibly need $50 million. Split it with the family. Family shares, Deshawn added like it was obvious. You mean the family that called me names? The family that made fun of my clothes, my job, my life? That family. I looked at each of them. When I needed help with tuition, who helped? When I couldn't make rent last year, who offered? When I was hospitalized with pneumonia and couldn't work for 2 months, which one of you visited? Which one brought food? Made sure I was okay? My voice rose with each question. Let me answer for you, none of you. Not one. Aunt Claudette sent her housekeeper with meals every day. She paid my hospital bills. She kept my landlord from evicting me. Where was my family then? Tasha had tears running down her face. I didn't know. You didn't ask. None of you did. I was standing now, everything pouring out. I've spent my entire life trying to be good enough for this family. Trying to prove I deserve to be here. And you know what? I'm done. So that's it. Boyd's face was ugly with anger. You're going to take everything and leave your family with nothing? You're getting $10,000 each. That's more consideration than you ever showed me. That's nothing compared to $50 million. Then earn your own money. The words exploded out of me. Start a business like Aunt Claudette did. Work hard. Stop expecting handouts from people who owe you nothing. Uncle Jerome moved toward me, his face twisted. For a moment I thought he might actually hurt me. Mr. Whitmore stood, his hand moving toward his phone. You ungrateful little, Jerome started. I'm ungrateful? I laughed and it came out broken. Aunt Claudette gave you a job at her first restaurant. You stole from the register and blamed it on an employee. She gave you a second chance. You stole again. She paid your mortgage 3 times when you gambled away the payments. Ungrateful is her brother spitting on her generosity. How do you know about that? Jerome's face went pale. She told me. Years ago. She told me everything because she actually talked to me. She told me about Patricia's shopping addiction that nearly bankrupted them. About Boyd's drug dealing. Yeah, she knew she paid for your lawyer to keep you out of prison. About Deshawn's secret second family that his wife doesn't know about. Deshawn lunged forward, but Tasha grabbed him. Don't you dare, she hissed. And you, Tasha. I turned to my cousin. She told me about the abortion you had at 16. How she held your hand and paid for it and never told your parents because she knew they'd disown you. How you promised her you'd never forget that kindness. But you did forget, didn't you? The second it became inconvenient. Tasha's sobs filled the room. That's not fair. None of this is fair. I screamed. Fair would have been having a family that loved me. Fair would have been Aunt Claudette living another 20 years. Fair would have been any of you treating me like I mattered before there was money involved. Mr. Whitmore spoke carefully. Perhaps we should take a break. No, Mama said, her voice stronger than I'd heard in years. No, let her speak. He's right. About all of it. She looked at me with clear eyes. Baby, I failed you. I chose getting high over being your mother. I let Jerome and Patricia talk about you like you were trash. I stood by while this family made you feel worthless. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve a penny of that money. Denise, Patricia started. Shut up, Patricia, Mama said. I'm not going to give you the money, I said, and the words felt like truth. Like freedom. Not because I'm spiteful. Not because I want revenge. But because Aunt Claudette was right, you don't love me. You love what I can give you. And I'm done being the family charity case you only remember when it's convenient. Then we'll contest the will, Jerome said. We'll tie this up in court for years. You'll spend millions fighting us. Is that what you want? Mr. Whitmore spoke before I could. Actually, Mrs. Morrison anticipated that as well. She established a litigation fund, separate from the inheritance, specifically to defend this will against any challenges. Miss Lisa won't pay a cent. The estate will. Jerome's face turned purple. You can't be serious. Additionally, any family member who initiates litigation will be permanently barred from any future Morrison family trusts or benefits. Mrs. Morrison was quite thorough. She thought of everything, I whispered, feeling Aunt Claudette's presence in the room. Protecting me even now. Patricia turned to me, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Lisa, please. We need this money. We're drowning in debt. The house is in foreclosure. If you don't help us, that's not my responsibility. We're family. Then act like it. The words came from somewhere deep. You want me to save you? Fine. Here's my offer. Each of you writes me a letter. A real one. Tell me why you deserve my help. Tell me what you've done to earn it. Show me who you really are. That's degrading, Boyd said. No, degrading is mocking your cousin for working an honest job. My offer stands. The meeting dissolved after that. They filed out one by one, their faces masks of anger and shame. Mama lingered at the door. I'll write you that letter, she said softly. But I don't expect forgiveness, Lisa. I just want you to know I see you now. I see what I did. After she left, Mr. Whitmore handed me a thick folder. Everything you need is here. Bank accounts, property deeds, business documents. I've also taken the liberty of arranging security for you, Claudette insisted. Security. She wanted to ensure your safety. People do unpredictable things when money's involved. He wasn't wrong. My phone was already exploding with messages. Distant cousins I'd never met suddenly wanted to reconnect. Family friends offering condolences and not-so-subtle hints about investments. The folder also contained a smaller envelope with my name in Claudette's handwriting. Inside was a letter. Just for me. Hi Lisa, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone and you're probably overwhelmed. That's okay. Let yourself feel it all. The grief, the anger, the fear, the excitement. It's all valid. I read through tears. She wrote about her childhood in Mississippi, about moving to Chicago with nothing, about building her empire one meal at a time, about how she never had children because she always had me. You were my daughter in every way that mattered. I'm not asking you to forgive them, but I hope you'll find peace. The money isn't meant to be a burden. It's meant to be freedom. Do something beautiful with it, baby girl. Make me proud. Though honestly, you already have. 6 months later, I stood in front of Morrison Community Center in Englewood. The building was brand new, gleaming in the afternoon sun. Inside were classrooms, a commercial kitchen for culinary training, job placement services, and addiction counseling. Aunt Claudette would have loved this, I said to Mr. Whitmore, who'd become more advisor than lawyer. She knew you'd do something meaningful. Mama had written that letter. So had Tasha. Long, painful confessions about jealousy, insecurity, failure. I'd read them crying, feeling their pain alongside my own. The others never bothered. I'd given Mama money for a supervised rehab program, long-term intensive. She was 4 months sober, living in a facility upstate. We talked weekly. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was something. Tasha got help paying off her student loans after she completed a financial literacy course I funded. She was working on rebuilding herself. The others? Jerome sent a 3-sentence email that was more demand than request. Patricia hired a lawyer who promptly withdrew when he realized the will was ironclad. Boyd posted on social media about fake family. Deshawn stopped responding entirely. I blocked them all. Not with anger, with peace. The community center opened to a crowd of 200. I'd hired staff from the neighborhood, paid them well. Created opportunities Claudette would have been proud of. That night, alone in my new brownstone in Hyde Park, Claudette's old house, I poured a glass of wine and raised it to her portrait on the mantel. I hope I made you proud. The house was quiet, but for the first time in my life I didn't feel alone. I felt free. $50 million hadn't made me rich. Losing my family's expectations had. And that was worth everything.